My wife secretly inherited $350, $0 from her late aunt and convinced me to remortgage our house for $200, $0, only to find out she's been hiding a second family and bank accounts with over $600, $0. Now we're in a legal battle over everything. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this, but here I am. It all started with what seemed like a normal day, but it turned into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. My wife, Lisa, had always been a bit of a drama queen, bossy, bitchy, and always convinced she was right about everything. She loved to throw her weight around, especially when it came to money. But I never imagined she'd go behind my back and do something so cold and calculated. We'd been together for over 10 years, married for 8. We had a decent life, nothing extravagant but comfortable. I worked as a project manager at a construction firm, and Lisa was a real estate agent. We bought our house about 5 years ago, a modest but nice place in the suburbs. Things weren't perfect, but I believed we were solid. At least I thought so. Then, about 2 months ago, Lisa started acting weird. She'd be secretive about her phone, hiding her messages, and sometimes she'd leave the room whenever she took a call. She'd get defensive when I asked about her day, and I noticed she was spending more and more time away from home. I brushed it off at first, thinking maybe she was just busy with work or some new client. But deep down, I felt uneasy. Something was off. One night, I was going through our joint bank account statement, just trying to get a handle on our expenses, and I saw something that made my stomach drop. A transfer of $350, $0 from her late Aunt Margaret's estate. My wife had inherited a huge sum of money from her aunt, which she'd been keeping pretty quiet about. She convinced me to remortgage our house for $200, $0, promising it would be for renovations, investments, or some big project she had in mind. I trusted her. She's always been good at convincing me to do what she wanted, especially when it came to money. But that's not the worst part, not even close. Because shortly after that, I started noticing strange charges on our accounts, things I didn't recognize, payments to some private bank I'd never heard of, and odd withdrawals. I asked Lisa about it, and she brushed me off, said I was overthinking. She told me I was paranoid, that she'd handle everything. But I had a gut feeling that something was seriously wrong. Then one day I decided to run a quick background check on her phone. I'd never done that before, but the way she was acting, secretive, evasive, made me suspicious. And what I found was worse than I could have ever imagined. Hidden messages, secret emails, and a series of photos from someone I didn't recognize. A woman. A woman I'd never seen before. They were intimate, clearly more than just friends. I saw her in bed with this woman, her hand on her thigh, her face flushed. It wasn't just a fling, she was hiding a whole second life. That was the moment I knew I'd been played. My wife, the woman I loved and trusted, had lied to me about everything. Her inheritance, her money, her secret affair. It all came crashing down in an instant. I felt rage, betrayal, and a profound sense of loss. How could she do this? How could she lie so easily? I was devastated, and I knew then that this wasn't just about infidelity. It was about trust, about everything we built together. And now I had to figure out what to do next. After I found out about Lisa's secret life, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and my mind kept racing with questions I knew I'd never fully answer. The biggest one was, how long had she been lying? How much of our life was built on her deception? I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, then kicked while I was down. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever recover. I decided I had to confront her. I couldn't keep living in this fog of lies. So I waited until she came home from her day showing off some new listing. She always loved to flaunt her success, and I called her into the living room. I was calm on the outside, but inside I was boiling. I laid out everything I'd discovered: the inheritance, the secret bank accounts, the affair, the private messages. I watched her face drain of color as I spoke. She tried to deny everything at first, saying I was paranoid, that I'd misunderstood, that it was all a mistake. But I had the evidence. The emails, the photos, the bank statements. I told her I knew about her second family, about the money she'd been hiding, and about how she'd been lying to me for months. Her eyes flickered with panic. Then she started to get defensive, throwing out excuses, saying the affair was just a fling, that she didn't mean for it to go this far. She insisted she loved me, that she was just lonely, that her affair was nothing serious, that she'd only been with this woman, Emily, for a few months, and it was just sex, nothing more. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She looked me in the eyes and lied straight to my face, as if I was an idiot. She told me she inherited the money from her aunt, that she'd used some of it for the house remortgage, and that the second family was just a mistake she didn't know how to fix. I felt my blood boil. How could she be so manipulative, so cold? I asked her why she never told me, why she kept all these secrets. She shrugged, said she was afraid I'd leave her, that she didn't want to lose everything we had. That was a lie. I saw right through her. She played the victim, the innocent wife betrayed by her own secrets. But I knew better now. I knew she'd been planning this for a while, that her greed and her selfishness had no limits. She'd schemed to get that inheritance, convinced me to remortgage, all while hiding her second family and bank accounts with over $600, $0. I was stunned. How could someone be so ruthless? The confrontation turned heated. I yelled at her, told her I felt like a fool for trusting her all these years. She cried, begged me to forgive her, said she loved me and that she'd do anything to fix this. But I wasn't sure I could even look at her the same way anymore. My mind kept circling back to the fact that she'd betrayed me on every level, emotionally, financially, morally. I felt sick, betrayed, and furious. I wanted to shake her, to make her see how much she'd destroyed. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what I'd just learned. I thought about everything we'd shared, the good times, the bad, the promises. It all felt like a lie now. I'd trusted her with my life, with my future, and she'd been playing me for a fool. I realized I had a choice. I could walk away and start over, or try to salvage what was left of our marriage. But the trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. She had crossed a line I couldn't come back from. And yet, part of me wondered if she truly loved me, or if she'd only loved the idea of the life we built. The next few days were a blur. I started gathering more evidence, planning my next move. I knew I had to be careful. She was manipulative and cunning, and I didn't want to fall into any trap she might set. I also reached out to a lawyer, because I knew this wasn't just about infidelity. It was about money, inheritance, and who really owned what. This was going to get ugly, and I had to be prepared. Deep down, I was furious, not just at her betrayal, but at myself for not seeing it sooner. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all these signs? How could I have been so blind? The love, the trust, everything I believed in was now tainted. I felt like I was losing my mind, but I also knew I had to be strong. Whatever came next, I wasn't going down without a fight. The days that followed were some of the most confusing and painful of my life. I kept replaying everything, trying to piece together how I missed all the signs. Lisa's lies, her manipulation, her secret accounts. Each new discovery made my stomach turn. I was angry, yes, but mostly I felt betrayed. I thought I knew her, but I'd been living with a stranger all along. She hidden a second family, bank accounts with over $600, $0, and a web of lies that I couldn't untangle overnight. I knew I had to act fast, so I started talking to a lawyer. Not because I wanted to destroy her, but because I needed to protect myself. I didn't want her to take everything, her inheritance, the house, the money she'd been hiding. The lawyer explained I had some options, but it was clear that this was heading straight into a legal battle. I'd have to fight for what was mine, for what I'd worked for all these years. The thought of her trying to take everything from me made my blood boil. While all this was happening, Lisa tried to reach out to me repeatedly. She'd cry, beg, promise she'd change, say she was sorry and that she loved me. But I couldn't believe her anymore. How could I? She lied about her affair, about her inheritance, about her second family. Trust was gone. I told her I needed space, that I was done talking for now, and that I was consulting a lawyer because I needed to understand my rights. I knew I couldn't just walk away from this without fighting for my share of what was rightfully mine. She got angry, of course. Called me selfish, said I was ruining her life, that I was overreacting. She accused me of trying to control her, of being paranoid. But I didn't care about her accusations. I was sick of her lies, sick of the way she'd played me like a fool. I started to realize that this wasn't just about money or infidelity. It was about her complete disregard for honesty and respect. She'd been scheming behind my back for months, maybe longer. And now I was the one left picking up the pieces. The more I dug, the more I uncovered. I found bank statements from accounts I'd never seen before, showing deposits of hundreds of thousands of dollars. She'd been funneling money into secret accounts, probably to fund her second life. I also found correspondence with Emily, her mistress, full of flirtatious messages and plans to meet up. The betrayal cut even deeper. It wasn't just the money or the affair, but the fact that she'd lied about everything. I'd been so blind, so trusting, and now I felt like a complete idiot. I started to think about what this meant for us. Could she be redeemed? Could we fix this? Honestly, I didn't see how. The trust was shattered, and I didn't know if I could ever look at her without feeling disgusted. Still, I wondered if there was any hope for reconciliation, or if I should just cut my losses and walk away. I wasn't sure I had the strength to stay in a marriage built on lies, but part of me still wanted answers, closure, and maybe some kind of justice. Meanwhile, Lisa kept pushing. She kept insisting she loved me, that she was sorry, that she'd never do it again. I told her I needed time to think. I told her I was filing for a legal separation. I couldn't live with her lying to me anymore, not just about the affair, but about everything. I felt like my whole world was crumbling, and I was just trying to hold on to whatever shred of sanity I had left. Every new piece of evidence, every secret uncovered, made me more certain that I was in over my head. The biggest shock came when I learned she'd been planning to move some of that money abroad, to hide it even further. It was clear she was trying to cover her tracks, to make sure I wouldn't get a penny. That made me realize I had to act fast, before she managed to disappear completely with her second life and her hidden wealth. I started talking to investigators, trying to trace her transactions and preparing for what I knew would be an ugly fight in court. I don't know how I'm going to come out of this yet. I'm angry, hurt, and honestly exhausted. But I do know one thing: I can't keep living in her shadow. I have to stand up for myself, for my rights, and for whatever dignity I have left. I never thought I'd be in this situation, but now I have no choice but to face the harsh reality that my marriage, my trust, and my future have all been shattered. And I'm just trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces. The legal battle is now in full swing, and I won't lie, it's been a nightmare. Every day brings new surprises, new lies uncovered, and more reasons to question whether I even knew Lisa at all. I thought I had a handle on everything, but it turns out she had been planning her escape for months. The second family, the secret bank accounts, the hidden inheritance. She'd been building her own empire behind my back, and I was just the clueless husband along for the ride. I hired a forensic accountant to dig into her financial records, and what they found was staggering. Over $600, $0 tucked away in accounts I'd never seen. She'd been funneling money into offshore accounts, transferring large sums to international banks, trying to hide her tracks. It was clear she'd been planning this for a long time, probably since she inherited that money from her aunt. Honestly, I felt sick to my stomach thinking about how much she'd lied and manipulated me. Meanwhile, I also found out about Emily, her mistress. She'd been seeing her for over a year, maybe longer, and the intimacy was intense. There were emails, texts, even some photos, Lisa's face flushed, her hand on Emily's thigh, their secret meetings in fancy hotels. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. All those times she said she was working late or out with friends, she was with her. I felt so betrayed, so humiliated. I'd trusted her with my entire life, and it turns out she'd been sneaking around behind my back, living a double life. I decided I needed to confront her again, but this time I wanted the truth on record. I called her into the house one afternoon, told her I knew everything: the affair, the money, the second family. She tried to deny it at first, but I had the evidence. Her face went pale and she started crying, begging me not to ruin her life. She said she was sorry, that she loved me, that she never meant for it to get so out of control. She said she was lonely, that she'd made a huge mistake. I looked her in the eyes and told her I didn't believe her anymore, that her lies had destroyed everything. I asked her how she could betray me like this, how she could lie about the inheritance, her money, her affair. She kept insisting it was all about her loneliness, her need for affection, and that she was sorry. But I saw through her lies. Sorry doesn't fix years of deception. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that she'd been living a double life, hiding millions and cheating on me. What hurt the most was realizing how much she'd manipulated me emotionally. She convinced me to remortgage the house, to take out that big loan, all based on her false promises. And now I was stuck with a mountain of debt, a broken marriage, and a sense that I'd been used. She kept crying, saying she'd do anything to fix it, but I didn't know if I could forgive her. Maybe I still loved her, but how do you come back from something like this? How do you rebuild trust after it's been shattered into 1,000 pieces? I started to think about my options. Do I fight for the house, for the inheritance, for the money she's been hiding? Or do I walk away and try to start over? Honestly, I'm exhausted just thinking about it. I never imagined I'd be in a position where I'd have to fight for what's rightfully mine from the woman I loved. But I also know I can't keep living like this, living in the shadow of her lies and betrayal. I've told her I need some time to think, to figure out what's best for me. She's still trying to charm her way back, saying she'll change, that she'll be the woman I married. But I've heard that before. Words are cheap now. Actions matter. And right now, her actions have shown me she's capable of anything: lying, cheating, stealing, and hiding her entire life from me. I've started to reach out to some friends and family, trying to get perspective. It's hard to tell who's on my side anymore because everyone seems divided. Some say I should fight for everything, get a divorce, take her to court. Others tell me to forgive her, that she's still the same woman deep down. But I don't know if I can trust her again. I don't know if I want to. All I know is that I have to protect myself, financially, emotionally, legally. Because if I don't, she'll keep pulling the rug out from under me. And I refuse to be the fool anymore. Now I'm in the thick of it, and I can tell you, every day feels like a battle. The legal side is brutal. Her lawyers are trying to spin everything in her favor, claiming I'm overreacting, that I don't need to worry about her hidden accounts or her second family. But I have the evidence, and I know she's lying through her teeth. Still, that doesn't mean it's easy. She's manipulative as hell, and she's trying to turn people against me, saying I'm just jealous or paranoid. I've been working with my lawyer to prepare for the fight over the house and the inheritance. It's complicated because she's claiming she's entitled to everything, even though she's been hiding millions in offshore accounts. I've also started the process of getting a court order to freeze her assets, which she's fighting tooth and nail. She's hired her own team of lawyers, and I can see the game she's playing, trying to drag this out, wear me down, and maybe even hide more money before I can get my hands on it. Meanwhile, I've been trying to stay sane. It's hard not to spiral into anger and despair. I keep asking myself how I let it get this far, how I didn't see the signs, how I trusted her and she turned out to be a liar and a thief. Sometimes I feel like I'm losing my mind, like I'm just a pawn in her game, but then I remind myself I have to stay strong. I have to keep fighting for what's rightfully mine: my home, my money, my dignity. One of the hardest parts has been dealing with her accusations. She's been telling everyone that I'm abusive or controlling, trying to turn friends and family against me. She's playing the victim, saying I'm the one ruining everything. It's infuriating. I know the truth and I know she's lying. But it's frustrating watching her manipulate the situation, twisting everything to make herself look innocent. That's why I've been documenting everything: texts, emails, witness statements, so I have proof of her lies and her schemes. I also found out she's been trying to get her second family to move to another country, maybe to hide even more money or start a new life. That realization hit me hard. She's been planning her escape, and I've been left to pick up the pieces. I've hired private investigators to track her movements, and I've started working with financial experts to trace her offshore accounts. It's like fighting a ghost. She's been hiding so much, and I'm just trying to catch up. Honestly, I sometimes wonder if this will ever end. Will I ever get justice? Will I ever see her held accountable for all the lies and betrayal? Or am I just fooling myself? Every day is a roller coaster of hope and despair. I want to believe I'll come out of this stronger, but right now I just feel drained. The emotional toll is enormous. I've lost confidence, trust, and part of myself in this mess, but I refuse to give up. I've come too far to back down now. I'm determined to fight for what's mine, no matter how long it takes. I want her to pay for what she's done, not just financially, but emotionally. I want her to realize that lying, cheating, and stealing come with consequences, and I want to rebuild my life, even if that means starting over from scratch. I've learned a lot through all this, about trust, deception, and the importance of protecting myself. If there's one thing I can say to anyone in a similar situation, it's this: don't ignore the signs. Trust your instincts, gather evidence, and don't be afraid to fight for yourself. Because if you don't stand up now, you might never get a second chance. And honestly, I'm tired of being the victim. From here on out, I'm taking control of my life, no matter what it takes. Now, after months of legal battles, everything is finally coming to a head. The court hearings have been intense, filled with accusations, evidence presentations, and plenty of sleepless nights. I've watched her try to spin her lies, trying to convince the judge and everyone else that she's the victim. But I have the proof, I have the facts. The offshore accounts, the secret emails, the photos, the bank statements, all of it paints a different picture. She's been scheming for a long time, and now she's finally facing the consequences. The judge awarded me the house and the lion's share of the inheritance, and I managed to get most of her offshore accounts frozen. It's a relief, honestly. Not because I wanted her to suffer, but because I needed to protect what was mine. I never wanted this to turn into a war, but her lies forced my hand. I had to fight for my future, for the money I'd worked for, and for my sanity. Looking back, I realize how much I've changed. I used to be trusting, maybe even naive. I thought I knew my wife, but I was wrong. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you can betray you the worst. I also learned the importance of standing up for yourself, no matter how hard it is. It's not easy to confront someone you loved and trusted, especially when they've betrayed you in such a profound way. But in the end, I had no choice. I've started to rebuild my life. I've moved into a new place far from the chaos and lies. I've cut ties with her completely. No more calls, no more messages, no more lies. It's hard, but I know it's what I need to do to heal. I've also begun therapy, which has helped me process everything I've been through. Because trust me, the emotional scars are deep, and it's going to take time to fully recover. As for her, I don't know where she is now. She's been trying to keep a low profile, probably trying to hide or run away with whatever she can. Honestly, I don't care. What matters is that I've learned a hard lesson. Never ignore the red flags, always protect yourself, and never let anyone manipulate or deceive you. If you're in a situation like this, get help, gather evidence, and fight for what's rightfully yours. Most importantly, I've realized that I'm stronger than I thought. I survived the betrayal, the lies, the financial chaos. I came out the other side battered but wiser. And while I'll carry the scars of this experience for a long time, I refuse to let it define me. I'm ready to move on, rebuild, and trust again, carefully, cautiously, but with hope that not everyone will betray me. This whole ordeal has taught me that sometimes life throws you into the fire, and all you can do is keep fighting to come out the other side. I hope my story serves as a warning and a reminder to stay vigilant, protect your heart and your money, and never settle for anything less than honesty. Because in the end, truth and integrity are what truly matter, no matter how much it hurts to face the reality.